Good day, ladies and gents, and welcome to the 7th episode of Inkwekwezi's Umtiza Forest Trail. Hope you enjoy it. Please remember to ask questions and we will get back to you in the comments. You see this beautiful big tree over here. This is called a Weeping Boerbean. Now, Weeping Boerbean gets its name from two aspects. Weeping, from its flowers. They get these beautiful red flowers that completely overflow with nectar and it just drips everywhere around the tree, and that's where weeping comes from. Boerbean is from the South African Boere in the war. They would actually come and gather these seed pods. You'll find them just around on the floor around the tree. Now, inside these seed pods you'll find a yellow seed, and the Boere used to roast these seeds on the fire. Now, these seeds are quite low in fat and protein but very high in carbohydrates, so that gave them a lot of energy while they were waiting out there in the bush. Now, they would also use this tree quite a lot for wagons, any form of wagon wood, wagon wheels, wagon beams. It's a very hardy wood. They'd also use it for furniture. So it's a very nice tree. You don't often see them getting so big. It's just this protected environment that this tree's been able to get so big. Now, Weeping Boerbeans are actually very important for sunbirds as well. Now, because sunbirds require a lot of nectar to keep going, when Weeping Boerbeans actually flower, they will flower very randomly throughout the year. They won't all flower in the same area at the same time. So one will flower, the one next to it might not be flowering. So it gives the sunbirds a very long feeding season, which is quite important to them. If you have a look, there's a couple more orchids growing on this boerbean as well. Now, these orchids have flowered. They're beautiful white flowers. As they die, they actually turn this lovely deep orange color, and at night they have this very sweet smell. So they're actually pollinated by moths. Now, if you have a look over here, this is a species of shelf fungus. It's just growing there on the tree. Doesn't do harm to the tree. Now, I've actually heard that every species of fungus or mushroom is edible. However, some of them you can only eat once. Okay, you want to be very careful when you're out in the wild. It's best to stay away from all mushrooms or fungus unless you are 100% sure of their identification. This specific species is highly poisonous, so you don't want to eat the wrong kind of fungus or mushroom. Okay, so if you are out in the wild, this is also quite a nice little tree to find. You can grow up to about 2 meters high. Inkwenkwezi oppositifolia, otherwise known as the Bushmans Poison. Now, oppositifolia, you see the leaves are opposite. You have them opposite and opposite. It's very characteristic. Also the oval leaves with a little thorn on the end. Now, Bushmans Poison, as you can see here, also has that milky latex inside. Now, where it gets its name from is the Bushmen would actually poison tip their arrowheads in this latex. Now, it's extremely toxic. Shooting an animal the size of a buffalo can bring it down in a couple of minutes. So you want to make sure that when you're working with it, you don't let it touch any cuts or anything on your hands, because you could very likely die from that. Okay, so also when you're cooking the meat from that animal, it actually takes the toxicity out of the meat. So once you've shot the animal with the arrow and the animal dies, when you're cooking that meat, you will not be poisoned from the Bushman's poison. However, if you actually go out and you're gathering wood and you haven't identified this tree very well, and you chop down the wood of this tree and you use this wood to cook your meat, the smoke from that wood will actually cause your meat to become toxic, and you can die from eating that meat. So you've got to be very, very careful with what wood you use to cook your meat on when you're out in the wild. Okay, so that'll conclude today's episode. Please tune in again tomorrow for continuance of the walk.